So the third, I don't think we need any more checks here. We've got the guestbook, name, email and message required, fields exceeded the character limit. Yeah, I think that's it. So we've checked this. I mean, in this tutorial I'm not looking at email validation. There's plenty of email validation functions out there that work really well, so I'm not going to go into creating a long and thorough email validation function just in this tutorial, because you can pick them up from around the web, and they work a lot better probably than what I could do in the length of this tutorial. So we're not going to be checking the email address in this case. However, it's a good idea that if you do want to create a good variation of validation in your form, that you do check for a valid email as well. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to construct our query. And before we do this, we need to think about first of all SQL injection, and second of all what's going to be displayed on the page. Now at the moment we've taken these variables here, and there's no real security behind this. The first thing we need to do is ensure that tags are not submitted through to our page. So for example, an iframe with malicious material could be posted. We could just simply come into here and we could say iframe source equals something, and in here could be malicious material and a website or something, and this would actually be translated by our browser as HTML tags and therefore would be displayed. So we need to wrap the post variables that we're taking in the function called HTML entities. Remember, much like we did earlier down here with our PHP self. So let's go ahead, HTML entities and HTML entities. So when you're taking values from a text field or a text area, always ensure that if you're storing them for later displaying on a page, ensure you use this HTML entities function to basically, what it does is it translates the tags into actual HTML entities to ensure that it's displayed on the page but it's not processed as tags. Hopefully that makes sense. We'll have a look at it a bit later on in the tutorial. We also need to think about escaping things like special characters that might form a part of our query to translate into an SQL injection. So people can inject specific SQL code or SQL queries into our form. They could put them into the form. These can be translated through, and inside of our query we are then going to have someone else's query, so we can modify queries this way. So this is just part of security from our database point of view rather than displaying on the page point of view. So to do this, we're again going to wrap this inside MySQL real escape string. So the long function name sort of gives away what it does. We're just escaping this string. We're escaping specific characters inside of this. So MySQL real escape string. Now this is a really useful function, however it will only work when we've actually connected successfully to a database. So this will now allow this MySQL real escape string function to operate. There are other ways you can protect against this, but for now in this tutorial this should be sufficient. So we've taken security into account with HTML entities and escaping specific characters that might form an SQL injection query. What we can do down here now is construct our query, but obviously before we construct and run our query we need to check if these errors exist. So the first thing we need to do is we need to say if empty errors. So it's checking if our array is empty. If our array is empty, that's all good. We can go in here and create our query. Now otherwise we need to display our errors. So let's go ahead and do this. Now we're going to use a for each language construct, which is sort of like a loop. It does actually loop, but what it does is it takes each element of an array and gives it its own variable. So this can be seen by errors equals error. As. So for each errors as error, so these are the collection of errors inside our array or not, and this is our individual value inside of our array. and in here we can just say echo, and let's give it a bit of formatting. So we'll put it inside of a paragraph. We'll make it strong, so I'll make it bold so the user can read it. And then inside here we can concatenate. So I've ended the string here, concatenated on a value that will go in here, concatenated again on the rest of the string. And this is just error. So for every error that we produce, it's going, well, for every error that we come across, so we may have multiple errors. For example, we may have, let's say, guestbook name and guestbook email filled, but message might not be. But then the guestbook name might be greater than 255 and the email might be greater than 255. Therefore we're going to have two errors, and then we're going to echo out each of these errors. So we'll test that in a moment. Otherwise everything's okay in here, so echo everything is okay. Okay, just to reassure us. So let's go into our page and refresh it. Now the first thing I'm going to do is submit the form without any values in it. So if I click post, okay, entities, I've spelt the function wrong. So let's go up and fix that. You can see we've got an error on line 10. So we'll go to line 10, which will probably be here. Let's go across and enter. There we go. There we are. Okay. So let's go back again. Refresh our page, click on post, and it says all fields are required. So we've given this error message. Let's go ahead and enter Alex in there. Post, all fields are required. Let's go ahead and enter Alex and Alex at phpacademy.org. Click post. Let's go ahead and type Alex at phpacademy.org, and love what you've done with the site. Click post. And we get everything is okay. So once we've checked everything, I'm not going to go through checking the length of the fields because this is going to take a bit too long. But you can do that in your own time. Try and modify the max length values and try and submit data that's too large. So at this point everything is okay, and therefore what we can do is we can insert the data into our database.